The Brihat Bengaluru Mahanagara Palike, the civic body that governs India's IT capital, is said to be split into multiple corporations. The state government is considering adopting the London model to restructure the civic body into three tiers of governance, consisting of an apex body on top and about 400 watts at the decentralized level. Some parts of Bengaluru's outskirts that have been witnessed rapid growth in the recent years will likely to be brought under the city limits. To discuss the government's proposal to split the BBMP, I am joined in by Sandeep Anirudhan, convener, Citizens Agenda for Bangalore, Shrikant Narsimhan, founder of Bangalore Apartments Federation. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. My first question is to Mr. Shrikant. So the government's proposal to split the BBMP has been met with vehement opposition in the past. Has anything changed, and what is your stand on the issue?
Yeah, hi Mahesh. Thanks for having me on the show. So, first up, I would say nothing really has changed. The splitting of BBMP into 3 or 5 corporations, even during the previous regime of Congress, way back in 2016-17, these things were discussed. This is nothing but a political gimmick, as far as I'm concerned. Article 243 of the Indian Constitution makes it very clear that no municipality can exist without an elected municipal council for a period of more than 5 years. If they want to split the corporation, let them hold the BBMP elections, let the council be constituted. You have another 5 years to discuss, debate, and go through in detail all the pros and cons of having 3, 5, 10, 50, whatever number of corporations. You have had decades and decades of misgovernance. Another 5 years of having BBMP in this current format is not going to change things. I don't see the need to postpone the BBMP elections right now to split the corporation. You can always do it in due course of time. All of this, in the past also, if you have seen, there is delimitation, reservation, one excuse or the other, all with the intent of just delaying the elections. So you're right, there's nothing that has changed. All of this is being done only with the intent of delaying the elections further. The only people who benefit from that are the MLAs and the state government who have unfettered access to the 10,000 crores of annual spend of BBMP. It doesn't serve any other purpose. So that's my very simple, straightforward, blunt, and honest view on why the current government is trying to do this splitting up exercise.
Okay, agreed. Mr. Sandeep, do you think that the government should focus more on holding the much delayed BBMP elections rather than looking to replicate a London model of governance? They don't even have a model of Bangalore governance. What's your opinion on that?
Uh, First and foremost, the government has a mandate to follow the constitution. The 74th Amendment of the Constitution was passed into law in 1992, and it clearly lays out how a city has to be governed, how it has to be planned. It very clearly says there has to be a metropolitan planning committee as an autonomous planning authority for the city. It also clearly specifies that the city should have a unified, devolved, and decentralized city government with elected representatives. Both these bodies are supposed to have elected representation. So, in effect, what the previous governments and this government have been doing by postponing elections is a violation of the constitution and law, and also the rights of the citizens to have an elected government. Much more needs to be done because it's 32 years since the 74th Amendment was passed. So multiple governments from in the last 32 years, I think every chief minister has been in contempt of the constitution, if you go through it technically. And I think it's time somebody questioned them. I think we need to uh, actually bring the government, possibly some court action to question why governments have failed to follow the constitution. The moral authority of the government is in question if it doesn't follow the constitution and its laws after having taken oath on the very constitution. So where's the moral authority for this government to do these things? Secondly, whatever is done needs to be statutory. And if you're not even following the statute, then what is this idea of having these harebrained schemes of cutting up the corporation and all kinds of things? It doesn't make sense. And the third thing is, even if the government wishes to take such big measures, it needs to have public consultation. I think any such move should first of all have a detailed, in-depth, transparent pre-legislative consultation. Only then should a bill be introduced. These ad hoc, irresponsible ways that governments act. See, there are two articles, one in the Indian Express and one in Deccan Herald today, clearly said this move is only for political compulsions. The Either it is because the party in power feels it will lose the elections in BBMP council, or they want to cut it up for uh, basically today's Deccan says that it is merely to delay the elections. So either they don't want elections or they want to somehow grab power. They are only looking at things in a very narrow self-interest terms. They're not looking in terms of the city's welfare, the city's benefit, the citizens. These are the last on their mind. This shows that the quality of our politicians have hit rock bottom. They don't seem to have the interest of the state, the city, the country, the citizens at heart at all. They're merely going after pure self-interest. I think these politicians have to be thrown out or they have to retire. They have lost moral authority in every way.
Yeah, Mr. Shrikant, the do you agree with what Sandeep is saying? Is it politically motivated? Because we have seen that the Congress party in the assembly election got around just 12 seats in Bangalore compared to BJP, and even in the recent Lok Sabha elections, BJP managed to sweep the all the 4 seats from Bangalore. Do you think it's just only delay ploy, to gain political favorably to by delaying elections further?
Yeah, I think I made that point earlier also. It's absolutely a political gimmick and nothing more. Only thing is, I wouldn't want to pin the blame only on the Congress government. BJP was in power earlier in 2020 when the elections should have been held. From 2020 till last year, they had the opportunity to conduct the BBMP elections, which they didn't. And it's not just about whether they can win the elections or not. What is at stake is the 10,000 crores of annual spend of BBMP. That money is a lot of money. If there is an elected BBMP council, if there are elected corporators, they are the ones who will be significantly in charge of deciding how that money is to be spent. In the absence of an elected council, in the absence of elected corporators, the BBMP is under the administration of the state government, which means the MLAs run the roost. And for them, when they see 10,000 crores, they start salivating. Why blame only the Congress government? BJP is equally responsible. Congress has been delaying
Exactly.
it
So
only
you
for
are
the last
saying
2 years.
all the MLAs from Bangalore are the ones who are opposing the BBMP elections.
Absolutely. This is one area where Congress and BJP stand united. When it comes to corruption, when it comes to siphoning of money, and when it comes to misgoverning BBMP, all of them, all the MLAs of BJP and Congress, they all have the same interest, having direct access to the 10,000 crores, which they can then control and use it for their nefarious gains.
When BJP was in government, Congress, used to directly, target BJP for not holding the BBMP elections. But during the Congress regime, we don't see much of BJP leaders, opposing or not challenging the current regime of not holding the BBMP elections. Mr. Sandeep, what do you have to say?
See, I tend to agree with Srikant that when it comes to corruption, they're all together. They actually work hand in glove with each other. Delaying elections has been a priority of both the BJP government and the Congress government. The MLAs of both parties don't want elections and having cooperators who will actually have direct control over the wards, which will create another level of oversight or it will create another level of corruption. Either way, the MLAs lose. And on the topic of corruption that Srikant was mentioning, see, 10,000 crores is merely the spend. A huge part of it goes as salaries to the BBMP officials. That is not the big cake. The big cake is bigger because the political economy of Bengaluru is much bigger. It's probably 50,000 crores or 1 lakh crores because a whole lot of real estate interests are at stake, and whoever controls that makes money out of it. So if you have corporators, what happens? You look at Bengaluru today, about 98% of all buildings are illegal. They're either violating plans or they don't even take plans, they just construct. So The oversight is supposed to be by BBMP. BBMP is not providing oversight, it's not taking action. Why? Because they take bribes and keep quiet. Now, when the officials take bribes and keep quiet, it obviously there have to be kickbacks to all the other political interests. Otherwise, they will get into trouble. So, which means the MLAs scam that money, the government ministers scam the money, BBMP officials and engineers scam the money, and that pie is much bigger than this 10,000 crores. This 10,000 crores is not the question. The question is all the illegal constructions that are happening in area. Who's benefiting out of it? And as a result, the city suffers. All the wards now have so many illegal constructions that the layouts are collapsing. All civic infrastructure is collapsing. There's extreme crowding. Water supply has become almost nil. Sewage connections the pipes keep exploding because the density of population has increased so much due to these illegal constructions that the load on all these has gone up by at least a factor of 25x. The actual city is planned for X, the population is becoming 25x. So you can imagine how badly all the layouts and all the wards and all the areas of the city are impacted due to this extreme corruption that exists and the inaction of the government as a result. People are making money on the side, they are sacrificing the city's governance and planning. And the entire,
Okay.
if you remember, last year, the Supreme Court passed a statement in a hearing not about Bengaluru, about Chandigarh. It actually asked Chandigarh not to become a Bengaluru. That is, don't cause violations in plan, don't have unplanned development, don't violate environment. Bengaluru has done all this. It cited it as an example and said Bengaluru is a template for urban ruin due to unplanned development, and it sent this is a matter of shame for Bengaluru and Karnataka. It sent a letter to all the chief secretaries of all the other states saying that don't make your cities like Bengaluru. What can be more shameful? We are cited as the biggest example of how a city should not be planned and how it should
Right.
not be governed. And all because we are not following the statute. And every government which comes to power, you notice they don't follow the statute. They always announce non-planned projects. You look at the most recent comedy is the one on the tunnel project.
Tunnel road.
It's not part of the master plan. It has that, therefore it's not statutory. So when you do that, anybody can go to court and question it and it will be held up. Why is government wasting time and money on such projects? They end up spending crores of money of our public taxpayers money on doing feasibility studies and detailed project reports. Ultimately, city will not get a project. Some consultants make the money and they give kickbacks to the politicians. This has become a regular practice, right from steel bridge to elevated corridors to taxi pod project to all kinds of these harebrained schemes. These are all devised by devious consultants who are basically brokers who are always on government advisory boards. This is the level to which the corruption is in the city, and all these politicians have a finger in the pie, and therefore the city is deprived of the proper framework for planning and governance, which is the Metropolitan Planning Committee and the unified, devolved, decentralized government with ward committees, area suburbs. This is how it's supposed to be. We citizens are deprived of all of these. We are deprived of good governance. We are deprived of planning, and as a consequence, the whole city is collapsing. It will be unlivable. We have lost
Okay.
97% of our green cover only in the last 3-4 decades. We've lost 90% of our wetlands in the same time. And we have 95% concretization now. We've had the worst heat wave. We've had the worst water crisis. Next year, it's going to be even worse. In another 3-4 years, the city will be unlivable. We'll all have to migrate and leave, all because in the last 30 years, every state government has failed the city in just not following the law. They have violated the constitution. They are in contempt of the constitution. For this, all the chief ministers should be actually taken to task.
Okay. Mr. Shrikant, if we speak majorly on splitting of BBMP, how do you think it will help in easing of governance, or it will only further complicate the matter? How do you see the government proposal if we keep apart, the BBMP elections and the delay with it? If we only purely speak on the splitting of BBMP, how do you see this?
I personally think whether you split it, reunify it, the core issue is not about whether the BBMP should be split or not. Let's take a step back and look at the Delhi example. In 2011, The Municipal Corporation of Delhi was split into three: North Delhi Municipal Corporation, South Delhi Municipal Corporation, and East Delhi Municipal Corporation. What was the reason given for that? The reason given for that was Municipal Corporation of Delhi is a behemoth. It's not able to manage the vast area of Delhi, and hence it needs to be split so that governance can be a lot better. Fast forward to 2022. Not many people know what happened. The three municipal corporations of North, South, and East Delhi were reunified to become
Unified.
Municipal Corporation of Delhi again. Why? Because they felt that the three individual corporations were not able to do the job. It's better to now reintegrate them. So the issue is not whether a municipal corporation should be trifurcated, bifurcated, or reunified. The key issue is what is it that is bogging our governance down? Mahesh, are you still there?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. The reason why the governance is failing is not because whether we have a single corporation or three or five corporations. The fundamental reason is because the corporations which need to act as self governments, and that's what is defined in the constitution, that every municipality should function as an institution of self government. There is no decentralization of power. The corporators who get elected are not really up to the mark. And most importantly, even where corporators are elected, ward committees are not constituted properly, area sabhas are not constituted properly, citizens are not involved, there is no transparency in the ecosystem whatsoever. And because of these reasons, governance is failing. Now, by bifurcating, trifurcating, or splitting into five corporations, those fundamental issues still remain. And hence, you
Hmm.
can keep splitting them up, you can keep reunifying them, nothing is going to change. So, we already have a Delhi
But don't you
example.
think by splitting, or by trifurcating or dividing into five parts, there will be some accountability, and people will have more access to the officers or the elected representatives.
I don't know how that's going to happen at all. Even
Hmm.
today, we have 225 wards. Earlier, we had 198 wards. Each ward
Later it was
has had
243.
a
Then it was
corporator,
brought.
and every ward has a AE, AEE, there is a zonal commissioner, there's a joint commissioner. All the ingredients that you need for local decentralized governance exist. It's
Hmm.
just that it's not being implemented and executed properly. Now,
Hmm.
let's assume that you have five corporations, and let's say each
Hmm.
corporation has 75 wards. How are
Hmm.
things going to change? I don't understand at all.
Hmm.
Ultimately, it's the same structure. Every ward should have a corporator, every ward should have an AE, AEE. You'll have all the local officials. If they are not going to do their job properly, and if the system is not decentralized, even in five municipal corporations, the same problems are going to continue. And that's what the Delhi
Hmm.
model has shown, where it was
Okay.
trifurcated into three corporations in 2011. And what has ended up happening in 2022 is that they have been reunified.
Hmm.
Now, why don't we learn from these lessons? Why can't we just
Okay.
understand that it's not about splitting, or it's not about having three or five or 20 different corporations? At a fundamental level, you need to have citizen participation, accountability, and transparency at the ward level. That is what is missing. At Bengaluru Navnirmana Party, a party that I've constituted for Bengaluru city, I've already constituted area sabhas in quite a few wards. We have brought transparency in many of the projects that are happening at the ward level, and we are engaging with officials to hold them accountable for what they need to be doing. That is what we need to be doing at every ward level, not
Okay.
splitting, trifurcating, bifurcating, splitting into five
Okay.
corporations. That is not the solution.
Mr. Sandeep, how do you see this? Do you support the idea of splitting BBMP?
Absolutely not. The trifurcation is not going to help in any way. In fact, when the Modi government first came to power, it had promised one thing. It said there will be less government and more governance. Here, this is exactly the opposite. You're going to have more government and less governance, because uh, the Karnataka state government has not uh, exhibited any ability to run one BBMP properly, and you will have now five BBMPs. So it's just going to be many messes instead of one mess. Now the second thing is, the present existing model is great. You have 8 zones which are technically devolved, because every zone has an IAS zonal commissioner. So it's as good as having 8 Bangalores right now. So what are you solving by reducing it to 5 Bangalores? So technically, you have a zonal commission in every zone. You have a joint commissioner. You have a chief engineer. You have executive engineers for every division. You have subdivisional AWEs and a variety of things. See, we need to figure out what is going wrong in the city instead of creating these solutions without figuring out what the problem is. One of accountability, and it's also about lack of clarity. If you go to BBMP itself, if you check their say organizational chart, you'll find so much confusion that people have no clue what they're doing. You take health, for instance. You have a health department which is giving trade licenses. It doesn't happen anywhere else in the world. And then you have another set of health officials who are doing sweeping work. You have another set of health officials who take care of public health. So in the health department itself, everybody is confused about what their job is. And so if you look at every department, the muddle is too big. The problem is at the top leadership of BBMP, none of the commissioners or the earlier, let's say when we had mayors, have exhibited enough initiative to clean up this mess in terms of hierarchies, process flows, and all that. It is simple management function. Nobody has had the capability to manage properly. That's all. We have a problem of human manpower. That's all. The secondly, if you look at, they're claiming you're going to go the London model. Let me tell you, every borough in London is actually the size of one of our wards. So basically, they have a whole lot of boroughs which they claim have independent city governments. But what it simply means is there is democracy at every borough level. If you look at our 74th Amendment, it says the same. Every ward is supposed to have area sabhas at polling booth level with elected members or appointed members. We are supposed to have a ward committee at the ward level, which is supposed to do the same thing, represent citizens along with officials, have a committee, take decisions, go into budgeting, review projects, and provide oversight. So we already have the borough system. Our ward system is exactly the borough system. So instead of having the few number of boroughs that London has, I mean, London has many boroughs. I think it has a huge number of boroughs. We are reducing it to 5 boroughs. That doesn't make sense. So the government actually hasn't given it thought. They have potentially have very bad. If any advisors are involved in this, I'm sorry to say, call them out and say that they have pathetic advisors who have not got their act together, or these advisors are just playing second fiddle to the politicians and just saying yes. They just have yes men who are agreeing to whatever the government says. We are not solving a problem in this. Solving the problem means fixing accountability, issuing punishments to people who are derelict, finding corrupt officials and punishing them. The BBMP even doesn't have a punishment list for the officials, which the High Court had asked it to make. So here the problem is one of responsibility, accountability, and efficiency. This can be fixed in the present system better than without trifurcation, because once you, making five different corporations, because there the problems will increase. You'll have 5 more messes that nobody is going to clean up, and Bengaluru will collapse as a result. This is highly ill-advised. It is not at all advisable.
Okay, Mr. Srikanth, your final word on the matter, and what advice you would like to give, suggest the present government, which is planning to, divide or trafficate or split into 5 the city civic body.
I start off by saying that I don't care whether BBMP is split into 1 or 5. The problems lie elsewhere in terms of governance. But if you want to split it into 5, by all means, take your time, go through a lot of citizen consultation, expert consultation, and you decide whatever is best. That you can do it in due course over the next 5 years. As per Article 243U of the Constitution, no council, no municipal council can go for a tenure of more than 6 months without an elected body. We are already almost 4 years into that. So please hold the BBMP election right away. All the trifurcation, bifurcation, splitting into 5 can happen in 5 years. If that is what is the need for the city, do it in due course. There's no hurry to do it, there's no urgency to do it. Do it as per proper process over a period of time after having put a lot of thought into that. Right now, the need is to hold the election. The need is to have elected corporators. The need is to have good governance, which is devolved to the wards. And that is what they should be focusing on right
Mr. Sandeep, your final word.
Yeah. See, Mahesh, Our city is collapsing. It's a known fact. It's crumbling. And it has exceeded its limits in every way. It's highly polluted and it's highly ill managed. Today, the priority is not about these superficial fixes. We need to fix it from its basics. And from the basics, we need to follow constitutionality. One of the biggest, most urgent factors we have is the previous RMP expired in 2015. We don't have a master plan. We keep talking about becoming a London and Singapore. Singapore has a master plan for almost 50 years or 80 years. It's got a huge vision. That is why it gets somewhere. We are a city without a vision. We are walking around blindly. So we don't even have a master plan for 1 year and we keep talking about becoming Singapore. If you want to become a Singapore, do what Singapore is doing. Have public consultations, have transparency, have democracy, have master planning and follow a plan. We don't have one. So the first priority that the city has is of having a functional master plan, which means the Metropolitan Planning Committee, which is the planning authority, needs to be immediately empowered. The members have to be added. We have to employ urban planners and transport planners, have a proper master plan. Till then, the city should actually freeze all development. We shouldn't allow a single construction because we don't have the resources, we don't have the planning. We should completely freeze development till we have a proper sustainable master plan. Climate change is impacting us already. We are going through a climate emergency phase. People will start dying very soon because of this. Already we have water crisis and heat waves. It will be worse next year. So right now we need a master plan, which is also a green master plan. We need to have a sustainable master plan. Only then should we allow even an inch of development. And we need to fix this governance thing. See, we have some 20 odd parastatals instead of one unified, decentralized, devolved government. It goes against the constitution. We have to merge all these parastatals into one government. We should have elections and we need to have high levels of transparency. We need to have ward committees functioning. We need to have area sabhas functioning. This will fix our city. We don't need anything else. If we just purely follow the constitution. If these politicians don't want to follow the constitution, they should resign. They should go and do something else. We need publicly elected representatives who follow the constitution, follow the statute, follow transparency, and follow responsibility to their electorate. We don't want people who are chasing after their own interests. I'd like to end it there.
Yeah. Thank you very much for joining in and sharing your views, Sandeep and Shrikant. So, what do you think about the government's plan to divide the BBMP? Please comment below and share your views. Thank you very much for watching India Today SoSouth.